you often find yourself feel frustrated when you're trying to make art? Well, here's one major reason why that might be. If you ask me, there are 3 main motivations why we sit down and make art. The first one is the motivation to sit down to practice and get better at something specific, or even just get better at what you're doing. The second motivation is to just have fun, to sit down and create something and enjoy yourself while doing it. And the third motivation is performance, meaning creating something really, really good. Now, I think the reason why we get frustrated when we sit down to make art is that we're trying to cram all of these 3 motivations into one session of art making. And that is bound to be frustrating because we're not going to get the same feelings from all these things, and we really can't multitask these things either. Like when we're practicing, usually we set out to focus on something specific. It's a very intense thing. You have to be really focused on what you're doing. It may not be very enjoyable while you're doing it. The satisfaction really arrives later, after you've seen how you've progressed and how you're improving and what it is that you're able to do now that you weren't able to do before. So that may be a slow process. You may not see very much of this after one session. So the satisfaction that you derive from these practice sessions is really that you know for a fact that you will be better at something at the end of it. And maybe you enjoy practicing. Maybe that's something that you get a lot out of. I find that I do that. I do enjoy. It's not a fun experience, but I do appreciate the experience of intense focus. And honestly, when I'm drawing or painting, I very easily get into the state of flow, and it doesn't matter if I'm practicing or performing. Now, sitting down to have fun is a completely different thing. You don't really have a goal. Maybe you just want to make something playful and fun. It's not very challenging for you to make anything because that will kind of defeat the purpose of it. So maybe you're just doodling, or you're making something that you know you can turn out pretty well, something that you're very familiar with. And it's, maybe you're doing it for stress relief, but it's definitely there for you to have a good time. The problem is that if you're going into it, I'll doodle something or I'll make something easy, and then the result is not very good, or maybe you feel like, I just wasted my time, I didn't really learn anything. It's because you forgot that was not the reason why you sat down in the first place. So sitting down to having fun is really about having fun in the moment, and it may not be a long-lasting, satisfying thing. You may not feel proud of yourself afterward, and that's completely fine, and that's really what the goal was. Now, the third one I call performance because it is about channeling what you already know and putting it toward making something great, something that you're really capable of at the moment. And I'm not saying that you're not going to challenge yourself, but it's distinctly different from practicing, because practicing is really focusing on what is it that I can't do. And when you're performing, it's like, what can I do? But maybe you push it a little bit and try to get even a little bit better, be a little bit more ambitious, because performance is really about being proud of yourself for doing something. And you don't want to push yourself too hard because, first of all, the artwork may not be very good, and then you're disappointed with yourself. But it's just a completely different thing from practicing, where you're trying to get better. But performing is about showing to yourself and to the world what it is that you're capable of, and then maybe pushing yourself a little bit further. And you may even get the satisfaction if the artwork that comes out of it is not the best thing that you've ever done, but maybe you've gotten more of an idea of what it is that you're trying to do. And it can be just really satisfying in its own way, even if the artwork isn't very good. But of course, if the artwork is good, it's even better. You can be proud of it, and maybe you have an idea of what you want to do with it. Maybe you want to give it away to someone. Maybe you want to hang it up in your own apartment, in your own room. There's a lot of things that you can be happy about. But again, it may not be a very joyful experience as you're doing it, just because you're so in the zone. Maybe you're not experiencing it as a fun thing. Like, as I said, I very easily get into flow. And for me, that is, when time flies and you forget everything around you. I don't know if you can describe that as a fun experience, but it's definitely something that I crave and that I feel like is really awesome. I don't come out of these sessions feeling good, because then as soon as I'm out of this bubble, I realize that I'm really hungry and, that I have to drink something, and I neglected everything, and maybe my back hurts because I've been slouching and I shouldn't have done that. And, so yeah, flow is not necessarily all the fun stuff that you feel afterwards, but it's really satisfying, can be a really satisfying experience. And yeah, and how much fun you're having with it, or how much fun you're having with the artwork that you produce, it can be hit or miss. It really can. So yeah, if you're aware of why it is that you're sitting down and not trying to do everything at the same time, I'm sure you'll have a much more pleasant experience with it. And also the good thing is that you can switch between these 3 modes. Like, depending on your current situation, how you feel like today, you can pick one of these 3 and get out of it what it is that you intended, without muddling up the intention and not getting out anything but frustration. And with that being said, let's go and create something.